Today we're going to be doing a little demo of the PlanFees fee benchmarking platform, and hopefully today you'll come away with some ideas on either how to improve your current fee benchmarking process or a place to generate a process altogether. So let's go ahead and get started here, folks. And again, my name's Luke Vandermillen. I'm a senior new business development associate here, and I'm really excited to show you what we have in store for you today with PlanFees. So let's go ahead and get started here. So a quick agenda for what we're going to go over today. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are here at PlanFees and how we kind of came about. Next, I'm going to talk about building a prudent fee benchmarking process, right? If you know anything about our company, we are heavy believers in putting together a repeatable and efficient process in all aspects of your retirement practice, whether that's reviewing investments, analyzing plan design features, or, as we'll talk about today, benchmarking fees. So hopefully, if you don't have a defined process as of today for your firm in terms of when and how you're going to be fee benchmarking for your different clients, hopefully you'll come away with some good ideas today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the different PlanFees deliverables and what PlanFees has. We'll do a quick demo of our resources, and then we'll wrap up with any questions that you all have. So if you have any questions as we go through here, I'll keep my eye on the Q&A feature as well as the chat feature. So if you have any questions as we're going through this, please feel free to enter them into the chat feature there. We'll make sure we get everything taken care of before the end of our session today. So let's go ahead and get started here and talk a little bit about who we are here at PlanFees. So if you're not familiar with us at PlanFees, we were created by a company called RPAG, which is a practice management platform for retirement plan advisors. And PlanFees is kind of an offshoot of RPAG. We're a standalone subscription fintech platform. And really what we were created to be was the answer to what should I be doing in terms of benchmarking my clients' fees in those off years where I'm not necessarily going out and doing a full RFP with multiple record keepers. If you keep up with the DOL at all, a few years ago, one of the things that they mentioned was that it's part of your fiduciary responsibility to determine fee reasonableness on an annual basis. And so the DOL being the DOL, they didn't tell us how to determine fee reasonableness. They just said, it's your fiduciary duty to do so. And so what we wanted to come up with here at PlanFees was a set of deliverables to help retirement plan advisors meet their fiduciary responsibility while not spending a ton of time and countless hours putting together these really complex deliverables. Everything we do here at PlanFees is meant to be accurate, efficient, and on demand. So that's a little bit about who we are here at PlanFees. And as it stands today, we currently have two different deliverables through PlanFees: the PlanFees Prism report, which benchmarks investments, record keeping, administration, and advisory fees. And then our Prism 365 advisor fee and service benchmarking report, which is going to take a look at not only the fees that an advisor charges, but also the services rendered for that fee. So it's a great way to internally judge your service model. And it's also a great way to figure out if you're under or over servicing one of your clients. So as of today, again, those are our two main deliverables. And PlanFees can be accessed, like I said, on demand anytime. So it can be accessed. We have a mobile app that you can download to an iPad or a mobile device, things like that. We also have, obviously, a website that you can leverage as well. So really, anytime that you need to benchmark your plan's fees, you can do it with our platform. So that's a little bit about us here at PlanFees. Simple, easy, efficient. Let's talk a little bit about fee benchmarking in general and what you should be doing as a fiduciary on retirement plans to satisfy your fiduciary responsibility. So there's a couple of things that I like to think about when we're looking at benchmarking a retirement plan's fees. Obviously, we're going to look at how much does this service cost, whether we're looking at record keeping fees, TPA fees, investment management fees. Our first consideration is always going to be what's the dollar amount that's either the employee or the employer is paying. Next, I mentioned it briefly, but who's going to be paying for that particular service? Is it going to be an employee? Is it going to be the plan sponsor? Is it going to be taken out of some sort of ERISA budget? There's dozens of ways that you can structure how fees are paid, and it's an important consideration to make when you're looking at fees. How are the fees going to get paid? So are the services going to be paid through forfeitures, through participant accounts? Is the employer going to write a check? Again, there's multiple ways that can be structured. And again, it's very important to consider how the fees are being paid. And you need to take all of these into consideration to figure out what's the best pricing model for you and your client. Right. Outside of these considerations, you also have some other pricing levers that are important to understand. Proprietary funds in your fund lineup. We all know a lot of record keepers will offer you discounts on their record keeping services if you utilize things like proprietary investments or proprietary financial wellness programs. And so with the proprietary fee levers that you have, as well as revenue sharing and things like that can be used in a multitude of ways to both pay for plan fees as well as credit back to participant accounts. There's a lot of different considerations that you need to take in terms of benchmarking fees outside of just the pure dollar basis point amount that you're comparing. So in terms of an actual process here, this is kind of the process that we here use at PlanFees, and this is the process that we recommend all advisors use when analyzing fees for their retirement plan clients. So we'll start up at high noon up here. So obviously the first piece of this is going to be gathering fee disclosures. We here at PlanFees heavily rely on the 408B2 disclosure that record keepers are required to provide. We've found here at PlanFees that the 408B2 disclosure is the most accurate way to get plan level fee information. I work with some advisors that use, the 404A5 or plan review documents, and those are certainly helpful in these types of situations. But again, if you're looking for the most succinct and easy to understand breakdown of the plan level fees that your client is paying, go to the record keeper and request a 408B2. Usually you can pull it right from the record keeper website, but that's going to be your best bet in terms of getting a great hold on what fees your client is paying. Then as we move down clockwise here, the next step is going to be determining reasonableness and what is reasonable. That's a little bit of the challenge that we as retirement plan professionals are facing right now is, okay, we know that we need to be benchmarking fees. We know we need to be analyzing these, but what exactly does fee reasonableness mean, and how can we determine fee reasonableness? Well, the answer to your question is going to be PlanFees here. I'm going to show you in a moment here how to use the PlanFees Prism report to answer that what is reasonable question and how to determine fee reasonableness. So on an annual basis, again, the DOL recommends that fiduciaries benchmark fees on an annual basis, which you'll be able to do using the PlanFees platform. And then we also suggest every 3 to 5 years doing what we call a live bid RFP. And what we mean by that is doing a more comprehensive fee benchmarking report where you're analyzing the current pricing structure of a plan, again, taking into considerations all the things I've already mentioned here. Who's paying for what service? How are they going to pay for it? What's going to be done with revenue sharing? There's dozens of questions that you need to ask. So comparing the current fee structure and then going and gathering quotes from other record keepers to compare the quotes to the current pricing structure. It's a lot like shopping for car insurance or things like that. You need to make sure that you're staying up to date with what the actual market is going to be dictating in terms of record keeping, investment management, TPA fees. And the best way to do that is, again, depending on the plan size, every 3 to 5 years, taking a plan out to bid, gathering quotes, and then putting them in an easy to understand apples to apples, side by side comparison. So with this fee benchmarking cycle that we've coined here, it allows you as the advisor to have an efficient and repeatable process across your whole book of business, no matter if you're working with $1 million plans or $100 million plans. This process will easily satisfy your fiduciary responsibility when it comes to fees. So, and I don't think I said it at the beginning of the presentation today, but I want to make sure you all know I'll be sending this slide deck out to all of the attendees today. And so if you want to take a look at kind of a summary of what I just went through, this benchmarking best practices page is going to be a good breakdown of all of that. Right? We have our annual fee benchmarking where we're looking at more averages. It's also a good, for annual fee benchmarking, it's also a great prospecting tool. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment here. And then obviously, like I said, live bid every 3 to 5 years, or good to perform at the onset of a new client relationship. But it does take time, obviously, with more detail that's going to be included in those reports. It's going to take more time than the 5 minutes it's going to take to put together a PlanFees report. And then lastly, we'll also talk a little bit about advisor fee benchmarking and how we at PlanFees can help you take a look at your own service model and figure out where you can be improving and where you can pull back the service a little bit in terms of the fees that you're charging. So this is just a quick look at our annual fee benchmarking. Again, we'll take a deeper dive into this report in just a couple minutes, but quick, simple, report that you're really looking at more averages or truly benchmarking in that sense, where you're taking a look at the investment fees, the record keeping fees, and the advisory fees, and then comparing those fees to plans of a similar size. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, but again, with the PlanFees reporting suite that you have, one of the beautiful things is that the reports take minutes to put together. And so instead of using something like, an actual book to determine what the average fees for the 401k should be, or using different platforms, PlanFees is going to be your go-to here for determining annual fee benchmarking. And then again, we also here at PlanFees have a advisor fee and service benchmarking report where not only are we looking at the fees that an advisor is charging, but also the frequency of certain services provided. So how often are you meeting with the investment committee? How often are you benchmarking the plan, et cetera? And we'll take a look at that report momentarily here. And then lastly, this is going to be a quick example of an in-depth live bid analysis. Now, up until recently, PlanFees never had an answer to the live bid analysis question. We never had a report that would allow advisors to get quotes through our services while still being able to get the accuracy and efficiency that we demand through the PlanFees deliverables. But you'll see towards the end of our presentation today, I'm really excited to show you the newest offering that we have here at PlanFees that will be the answer to this in-depth live bid analysis here. So excited to show you that. Looks like we have a question here from an audience member. Is PlanFees included with RPAG membership? PlanFees is an additional service for RPAG members. So if you're on this call and you're a member of RPAG, you can actually add PlanFees to your membership for of largely discounted cost in comparison to those who are not with RPAG. So if you're interested in potentially adding PlanFees to your membership, I will reach out to you after this. So continuing on here, again, we have isolating different plan cost components with the PlanFees Prism reports to take a look at things like record keeping and say, okay, hey, you're a $5 million plan that pays 82 basis points for record keeping charges. Well, according to our benchmarking study here, most plans around that size pay anywhere from 24 to around 59 basis points. And so a lot of folks use this PlanFees report to contextualize fees, whether it be record keeping, investment management, or advisory fees as well. So enough of me talking off of a PowerPoint here. I think the real power with PlanFees is going to be showing you folks exactly what you can do with our platform here. So let me pull this up on our screen here and show you a little bit about the PlanFees platform here. So as I mentioned, PlanFees is a web-based platform that you can also access through a mobile app. And currently we have two deliverables available. Like I mentioned, the PlanFees Prism report and the PlanFees Prism 365 report are both available as well. And then let's see here. Looks like we had another questions. A couple other questions here. Are alternate providers of the same type as incumbent, for example, insurance company versus fund company, do you control for that? Yeah, I think I understand what you're asking here. When you're doing fee benchmarking comparisons, especially in a live bid analysis type situation, it's our belief here at PlanFees that you're going to want to keep everything as apples to apples as possible. Now, with that being said, we a lot of times see different record keepers included in a live bid analysis. So, hey, we might have an insurance company and more of a fund company. But at the end of the day, as long as you're comparing the fees in an apples to apples format, then it's fine to have different providers in your live bid analysis, especially different types of providers. So great question there. But moving back here to PlanFees, again, we have the Prism report, a Prism report here where we have the benchmarking for record keeping, TPA, investment and advisory fees. We have a Prism 365 report here that, like I said, benchmarks more advisory fees and services. And then we have a new report coming out here within the next few weeks called RFP Express that I'll give you a sneak peek of as well. But let's take a look at PlanFees, the Prism report here first. And looks like we have another question from the audience here. Yes, I will be recording this webinar. I am recording this webinar and we'll be sending it out to everyone that attended. So there will be both a recording available as well as I'll be sending the slide deck that I referenced a moment ago. But taking a look here at the PlanFees Prism report, up at the top here, this is all the data that's required to create the PlanFees Prism report. So all you as the advisor need to do is put in what the name of your client or prospect is, whether it's a 401k, 403b, or 457, if there's a TPA involved or not. And then you need to punch in what the plan assets look like, how many participants are in the plan, and then what the weighted investment management cost is, the record keeping fees, as well as the advisory fees. So once you have all that information, you can easily put that into PlanFees here. And down below, we can actually choose what size of plans we'd like to compare our plan to here. So you can see here for this sample version, I included a $5 million plan with 75 participants. If we scroll down here, what I did was I chose to compare this $5 million plan to plans between $3 and $7 million. Now, the nice thing about PlanFees is that you can actually change the benchmark as you see fit. So if I was an advisor and I wanted to change this, for plans 2 to 7 million or 2 to 8 million, we can adjust the plan asset band. Another quick question here. If plan data is currently sent to RPAG for the PAL program, will this data automatically populate? Yes. Great question, Kevin. If you're an RPAG member and have this information I mentioned up above here, you can actually have the information pull directly from RPAG into PlanFees. So if you're an RPAG member and already have access to PlanFees, feel free to reach out to our support team, and they'll be happy to walk you through how to do that. Real easy couple-step process. But again, you can choose the plan asset size for the plans that you're comparing this to. And you also have the ability to add an additional filter here on how many plan participants to benchmark as well. So what we essentially have done here is say, hey, we want to compare the fees of our $5 million plan up above here to plans between $2 and $7 million that have between 50 and 100 participants. And again, you can choose whether or not to include the plan participants filter in your analysis or not. But down below here is going to be your breakdown of all the fee information for you as well. And so once you've done all that, you can click this download button here at the very bottom. And it's going to download this really nice and succinct plan fees report for you. It's a 5-page report that's really nice for your plan sponsors because it's really easy to understand. It can be presented as a standalone deliverable, or you can include it with other deliverables since it's so small. So with this plan fees report, and let me zoom in a little bit, up at the top of the report, we're going to have all the information about our benchmark. So again, we were looking at a $5 million plan with 75 participants. And for this report, I decided to compare the $5 million plan to plans between $3 and $7 million. And up at the top here, we can see we have about 3,000 plans in our universe that fall in this category here. So what essentially PlanFees is going to do for you is take a look at your current plan information against a low, average, and high. And so if I move to the next page here, and again, we have another question here. Is the information comparing plans based on a pool of RPAG members? No, the plans that are included in our PlanFees database are not only RPAG members. There are some plans from non-RPAG members as well. That's a great question. How do you account for a plan that credits? I think another question here. How do you account for a plan that credits revenue sharing back to participants? Great question. For a plan that credits revenue sharing back to participants, what we will typically say is for the record keeping charge here, if you have a revenue sharing credit, that's going to offset some of this record keeping charge. What you'll put in this plan fees analysis is what the actual record keeping charges that's charged to the plan. So what I mean by that is what the charge is after any revenue sharing offset. So, you know, for our example here, we have 80 basis points for the record keeping charge. The 80 basis points is going to be our current record keeping charge. And then let's say we had 10 basis points of revenue sharing that offsets that. For our analysis here, we would put 70 in here. Another question is the low and high measures does the low and high measure the top decile or quartile? Yeah, I was just getting to that. So the low, average, and high that you see here on the report is actually the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile of this data universe that we're looking at here. So what we're really looking at is more of a range of fees that are paid by plans of a similar size. So the idea with this report here is going to be, you know, you take this to either a client or prospect and say, hey, we did a fee analysis of the fees that you're currently paying. You're currently paying 55 basis points for your investment management costs. And if we compare that to our low, average, and high here, you should be paying anywhere from 33 to about 56 basis points. Now, since 55 is right up against this high, if I was an advisor presenting this report, especially to a prospect, I would say, hey, you know, since your investment fees are so high here, right up against our high, maybe we want to talk a little bit more about the investment lineup. Maybe we want to talk about possibly getting into CITs or, you know, taking a more passive investing strategy to lower our plan costs there. So really what this report allows you to do is answer the question, if you have a $5 million retirement plan client who says, hey, I'm paying 55 basis points for my investment lineup. Is that too much? This report can help you answer that question. Yeah, 55 basis points is right up against the high there. Same thing with the record keeping charge as well. Hey, the 80 basis points is right up against the high. What I've seen advisors do in this scenario is say, hey, maybe we need to take the plan out to bid now. Usually we wait every 3 to 5 years, but our pricing is really high in comparison with our plan size. So let's go ahead and take the plan out to bid and see if we can get a pricing concession from our current record keeper, or if we want to move to a different record keeper. And then the advisory fees as well are listed down below here. So you can show where your advisory fees are going to land against a low, average, and high here as well. And then the last page in the report is just a different visualization of the same data, where you're looking at more of a bar chart as well. But again, on every page of the report, you're going to get all of the benchmarking info right at the top up here. So that's our PlanFees Prism report. That's available for you as well. And one last thing about the PlanFees Prism report, I had a couple questions that danced around this a little bit, but for the data that we use to populate this report, we actually utilize our sister company, RPAG. They have a fee analysis report where record keepers can actually update their current plan pricing right through the RPAG advisor portal. And so any plans that have updated their plan pricing in the last 3 years directly from the record keeper, that's what investment, or that's what data is going to populate this report. So all of the pricing information that we have in this report comes from verified record keepers. It's not manually input by advisors or anything like that. And again, it's also up to date information since we only have plans within the last 3 years in the database. All right. And then moving on here to our second deliverable, the PlanFees Prism 365 report here. Again, like I mentioned, what this report's main focus is the fees that an advisor is charging and the services that an advisor is is providing as well. So for this example here, I did a $10 million plan with 100 participants. So again, for this report as well, it's very easy to put together. It only takes a couple seconds to do. But basically what you'll do is you'll put in your current advisor compensation up at the top here. So, for this report, I say, hey, we're charging 25 basis points to be this plan's advisor. You can put that in as either a dollar amount or a basis point amount. And then as we move down the page here, we're going to see questions regarding 4 key areas of advisor service here: investment analysis, provider and fee benchmarking, fiduciary services, and employee engagement, kind of the 4 pillars of being a retirement plan advisor. And basically what you'll do here is go through here, and it's sort of set up like a questionnaire in a way where you'll say, okay, investment menu selection and monitoring. Do we include that in the base fee or the 25 basis points that we put up above here? Do we charge additionally for this service, or do we not offer the service at all? Then the website's going to ask you how often you provide that particular service. So whether you deliver investment analysis quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. And then it might ask a few other questions too, like, hey, are you 321, 338? And then same thing for the other sections as well. How often are you benchmarking the plan? Do you charge additionally for it? Do you charge additionally for any fiduciary services? And what kind of employee engagement do you do? Do you do certain amount of education days? Do you do one-on-one meetings, etc.? Then down below here is where you can add in some value-added services as well. So you can say, hey, I do all these other things for my client as well outside of those kind of 4 key areas. And then the report that generates here, again, same kind of branding as the other PlanFees report. And again, very concise. This report's only 8 pages long. This report here, what it's going to do is, again, give you a breakdown of the benchmark that you used and show you kind of your service plan, kind of, hey, what's included in your current advisor compensation? How often are you delivering services? It'll have the list of value-added services down below here as well. And then just like the other PlanFees report, we're getting a comparison of the advisory fee to a low, average, and high. But where the report, this Prism 365 report is going to be a little different is under investment due diligence services here, for example. We can see that the analysis is going to look a little different because, take this frequency of committee meeting row here. So for this particular section, I said that this advisor includes investment menu selection and monitoring in their advisor compensation, and they deliver analysis quarterly. And you can see over here on the right, it's going to say see table 2 below. And this is going to give a breakdown of how often advisors that service a similar size plan provide investment menu selection and monitoring. So only 26% do it annually, 48% do it semi-annually, 26% do it quarterly. So if I was an advisor presenting this report, I'd certainly be pointing at the fact that, hey, most advisors for a plan of this size do semi-annual meetings. I'm doing quarterly meetings. So essentially I'm meeting with you twice as much as other advisors would. And the same can be said for, like I said, the fee benchmarking and fiduciary services. How often are you bringing the plan out to bid, et cetera. And then again, like I mentioned, the employee engagement services as well. So, how many education days are you offering? What kind of financial wellness program are you utilizing? So this Prism 365 report is great for both internal use to, again, judge your service model, as well as taking a look with with your clients or prospects to say, hey, what can we be doing better? How can we be more efficient? So this Prism 365 report is a great deliverable, especially what we've seen in the marketplace is that if you're an advisor, kind of a high touch, high service advisor, where your fee in comparison might be a little bit higher than other advisors in the marketplace, but that's because of the level of service that you provide. This Prism 365 report is a phenomenal way to show your clients or prospects the high level of service that you're going to be giving them. So as I mentioned, we have the two PlanFees Prism deliverables, the Prism 365 and the Prism report as well. What I'm really excited to show you folks today is our newest deliverable that's coming out called RFP Express. And let me pull this up here. So RFP Express is going to be the newest rollout for the PlanFees suite of tools. And essentially what this report is going to allow you to do is to, within just a couple of minutes, put together a live bid analysis where you're actually getting quotes from different record keepers. So the way that this report's going to work is that you can see here, it's going to ask you to put in some plan information. Hey, I'm working with a $1.5 million plan that's with ADP. Here's my advisory fee. It'll ask for some basic cash flow information, contributions, distributions, and the number of participants that are in the plan. And then what we've done here at PlanFees is we're actually working with all of the major record keepers to have their pricing input in the back end of PlanFees. So basically what we've had record keepers do is I'll use the term grid pricing, where most record keepers for plans of a certain size are going to say, hey, if you have this many participants and this amount of assets, this is what your record keeping charge is going to be. And so if your plan falls under the parameters of a record keeper's grid pricing, you're going to get some instant quotes right here where it's going to say, hey, for Voya's Advisor Plus Discover platform, here's what your quote's going to look like. For Transamerica, here's what your quote's going to look like. And then the nice thing is that if you don't, if your plan that you're benchmarking doesn't fall within the parameters of some of these record keepers grid pricing, you'll actually have a button here on the far right side to say, hey, we'd like to request what we call an express quote from this record keeper. And essentially what these record keepers have promised us here at PlanFees is that they will respond to those quote requests within 24 to 48 hours. And so even if your plan doesn't necessarily match the, again, I refer to it as grid pricing, it's still a great way to get quick quotes because, for most of the advisors that I've worked with, typically we see, 3 to 5 to 6 weeks to put together a live quote type report. And with the PlanFees RFP Express tool, you're going to be able to put it together in at most a day, typically under a couple minutes. And I'll real quick give you a sneak peek here of the RFP Express output report. So again, it's going to be in line with the same kind of branding as the other PlanFees deliverables. So we'll have some quick information about who we are here at PlanFees. And then just like that Prism 365 report, you're going to get a quick breakdown of the plan data that was used for this particular benchmarking report. So for this plan, we're looking at 3.5 in assets, 200 participants. You get a quick service provider summary, and this is from a service highlights database that we have from all the record keeping partners. They're going to talk about kind of different service highlights that they have. And then what you're going to get here is a fee summary of all the quotes that you gathered, as well as, and you can choose to toggle this on or off, is a plan fees average that'll appear within the report, where you can see basically that that average that was in both the Prism and Prism 365 report is adding this to the report to compare your quotes to. So, okay, hey, these quotes all came in at 39 basis points. The average is about 40 basis points. This is obviously just for illustration's sake. These aren't real quotes from providers, but I wanted to give you folks a look at how we break out the fees here. So even though this report takes a couple minutes to put together, it's still a very easy to digest way for plan sponsors to look at quotes in an apples to apples format. Okay, here's what the record keeping charge is. Here's what the TPA is, the investment management, the advisory costs, and this is what it's going to total up as. So it's a great way for fee transparency where you're not going to have a record keeper hiding behind a low investment management cost or things like that. You'll be able to really isolate all of these cost components and put together a really comprehensive analysis for your plan client. And then we'll include a couple other service highlight type statistics in here, that so that you can also evaluate, hey, what record keeper is going to be best for this particular plan? Where's this record keeper's sweet spot? What's their kind of average plan size, et cetera. So this plan fees report, and then lastly, it's going to have a quick one-page provider summary of kind of an elevator pitch from each provider that you included in the report. So the RFP Express report is going to be an absolute game changer. I don't know. I know there's a lot of advisors on this call, and just by looking through the attendees list, there's a lot of folks on here that I've worked with in the past. And so I know that some of the folks on this call will take a few weeks, I know, to put together a live bid benchmarking report. But RFP Express will be able to turn that into at most a day or two process. So it's going to be very, very, very big for our advisors. Looks like we have a question here. Some of our larger plans have in-plan guarantees to guarantee future income. Will this be something we will get to as an option to show fees and provisions? Yeah. Thomas, you want to reach out to me individually about that? I think I understand what you're asking here, but I have a couple different ideas of how that can be showed through plan fees. So I'll make sure to reach out to you individually after this, and we can talk through that in a little bit more detail here. But the last thing that I'm sure that's on everyone's mind is the pricing for plan fees. So the pricing for plan fees for just the Prism report, which is going to be that first report that we looked at today, you're looking at $49 a month. That's billed annually, so right around $500 a year. If you want access to just the Prism 365 report, it's the same price, $49 a month billed annually. And then we also run a 2-report bundle where you can get access to both of those reports for $69 a month billed annually. So I always suggest going with the bundle because those 2 reports are great in comparison with each other. And a lot of our advisors will put together both reports and present them simultaneously. But in terms of RFP Express, the pricing that we're going to do for RFP Express, if you want just access to RFP Express, you're going to have $99 a month billed annually. And if you want all 3 reports within the bundle, you're going to be looking at $150 a month billed annually. Now, I know there's a few RPAG members on the call today. If you're an RPAG member and interested in getting access to PlanFees or RFP Express, please reach out to me individually. RPAG members get a large discount on PlanFees. So I'll go over that with you all one-on-one if you want to reach out to me to talk about what it would look like for you all. And then we have another question here. Did we mention when the RFP Express is going to be available? Yes, so we are in the final stages of testing RFP Express and making sure it's ready to go for our users. It should be available within the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. So keep an eye out on that, and we'll be sending out plenty of communications once we have a hard release date for you. So keep an eye out on your email if you see anything come from RPAG or PlanFees, because we'll be announcing that release date very, very soon. Again, folks, I really appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy day to join me today for this webinar. I always really enjoy getting the chance to unveil something new. So if you can't tell from today, I'm very, very excited about RFP Express. And so, like I said, I'm happy to do a one-on-one demo for anyone that's on the call. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me for my contact information on the screen here. So look forward to talking to you all real soon, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.